As two predictors become increasingly correlated, their B's and their betas shrink. Okay, so all else constant, again, as two predictors increase their overlap with one another, increase their redundancy is another way to say it, then they will predict less unique variance in the DV. So again, the value of adding a predictor only makes sense, I think, if it's not super correlated with the other predictors in your model. You can see this is true in two ways. The first way is by the formula for beta in the two predictor case, and that's in last week's lecture, so go back and look at that formula. It was a little complicated. It had correlations, so you're plugging in the correlation between the DV and predictor 1, the DV and predictor 2, and then the correlation between the two predictors. And you can see as you hold all else constant in that formula, as the correlation between the predictors rises, then the overall betas and B weights will shrink. So you can also see this in the Venn diagram when in your mind's eye you move the two predictors very close together with one another. Then you can see that the A and the B areas will be shrinking. So look at that again just to see it visually, and then it will make hopefully a lot of sense that way. What is the standardized covariance between X and Y? That is the R. So that is the correlation coefficient. Just keep in mind that the correlation coefficient is a standardized covariance. So it's the covariance divided by the standard deviation of X times the standard deviation of Y. That's an easy way to remember it. Remember that validity is equal to the truthfulness or the accuracy of inferences or conclusions that we're making about our sample, and if our sample findings reflect what's going on in the population. So remember, stat conclusion validity is the truthfulness of inferences that X and Y are statistically related. Internal validity is the truthfulness of inferences that our hypothesized predictor is causing our DV. So there's a causal link there. And finally, external validity is the truthfulness of inferences that the causal link between X and Y it holds or stays significant across various situations, contexts, and people in our sample. And finally, if we center a predictor, what is the y-intercept or the b-naught? And that answer to that is that it is the mean of the dependent or outcome variable. So if we center the predictor, we make its mean 0. And so remember the conceptualization of the y-intercept is the expected value of the dv when the predictor is at 0. And so in that case, when it's centered, the mean is 0, and then when the predictor mean is 0, the expected value of the dv will be the mean of the dv.